The following presentation has been assembled and recorded and is meant for eyes and ears only. Duplication of this is strictly prohibited at this time, as is discussion beyond those who have been pre-approved of this knowledge. Any violation shall be met with the harshest of punishments available at that time.
Subject 1. Designated Spectre. Found in the grounds of Prokhorovka in the Kursk areas of operations, researchers found strange auras of what appeared to be T-34-85 tanks. Study has found that the amount of casualties is directly proportionate to the amount of lives lost in the Kursk operation. The subject can sometimes be hard to locate when at a distance, or when it is moving. Proceed with caution when attempting to interact with the Spectre. Subject 2. Designated Kaiju. Discovered near the coast of Japan, this lowly titan roams slowly along until it finds its prey within its sight. Though it possesses little mobility, it can strike distant targets almost instantaneously, similar to a frog in nature. It also possesses the ability to breathe fire to any nearby area or target. Reports state that the kaiju is a lesser effective monster tank in comparison to other subjects. Subject 3. Designated Fangula. In 1951, the American Research Coalition created a strange machine. Originally intended to improve mobility with damaged tracks, lab results went awry when the subject was infested with experimental spiders. Fangula had escaped the facility. Fangula now possesses the capability to jump vertically as it will. Any interaction with the subject must be performed at distance for safety. Subject number 4. Bellerophon. It is unknown where the subject originated. The best evidence gathered is from a photo in Greece where a family stands on a shoreline cliff where the subject can be partially spotted embedded in stone. When it is active, it uses force and pull spears. Subject remains inactive during daylight time. Towards the evening hours of the night, it will become active and proceed to move. Anybody within range of the Bellerophon is in immediate danger, whether it be on the cliff or near a chasm. Subject 5. Panzer 58 Mutz, designated Wraith. A Swiss project developed in 1953 with plans to use a 20-pounder weapon from the Centurion. The project was discontinued and never entered mass production. 2 prototypes were lost to time and eventually unable to be located. Surveys have located drained energy in areas where sightings have occurred. Subject 6. T-71DA. Subject Lycan. Intended as a replacement for the M41 Walker Bulldog. In 1953, the focus was to create a highly mobile light tank with an oscillating turret. Research discovered the subject to gain unnatural abilities when loaded with a magazine. Subject is currently being kept in isolation in an undisclosed fortification in Texas. No ammo is permitted in the facility. Subject 7. KV-5, designated Gorinish. Multiple attempts were made to capture this subject, but were unsuccessful due to its high radioactivity and natural heat element. This tank both breathes fire and causes destruction everywhere it goes. It roams the grounds of Chernobyl, where it may hibernate or even set ablaze the landscape around it. Quarantine zones have been set, and access is limited until radioactivity dies down and is able to be captured. Confirmed existence of the Gorinish is recorded from aerial views of the main grounds of Chernobyl.
Subject number 8. Revenant Craft Panther. A Nazi experiment in an attempt to reuse battle-damaged equipment without having to use or consume parts or manpower. This is considered a limited success with mobility in mind, but still produces sufficient armor and firepower, along with the added benefit of stealth, as it appears to be a knocked out or destroyed beyond operation tank in the field. Extremely stealthy, extremely dangerous. Subject 9. M6 Heavy Tank Experimental, codename Foghorn. Upon receiving reports from German scientists' experimentation into the attempted reanimation of battle-damaged equipment, the American Army Ground Forces, in an attempt to develop, experimented with a end-of-the-line prototype, the M6 Heavy Tank. Testing had proved insufficient and unproductive at that time. The prototype was later abandoned and left in a field. The sightings have reoccurred, though, of this same tank appearing spontaneously out of pools of water, and particularly brackish and overgrown, with the paranormal abilities involving vegetation in specific. This is to be considered extremely dangerous and to not approach. Subject 10. M48A2 patent engineering development intended for West German Army. Codename DERPdurDERP. Upon the cessation of hostilities in World War II, and the inaction of Operation Paperclip, the acquiring of information, material, and personnel regarding Subject Number 9, Project Revenant, were acquired and transported back to the U.S. for continued R&D. It was determined through experimentation that attempting to reanimate an entire vehicle was an insufficient use of the energy available determined in the experiments. The option instead was taken to enhance individual modules and components of a vehicle to improve effectiveness in its specific assigned roles. In this case, both the driveline, front armor, and front bulldozer blade have been enhanced to improve the energy output of the machine in its performed task at this time. This machine is completely harmless as long as it is deactivated and unpowered. Note, avoid contact with the front end at all times. No additional need for this has been determined at this time, and the machine has been replaced in secure storage at Area 51 until a further need is determined necessary at that time. Subject number 11. British Chimera Experimental Tank, codename Inferno. In the interest of maintaining mutual alliances through the NATO membership, information on additional projects, both of German and American origin, were shared with the British, but it is unclear how far they chose to pursue them. In their post-war choices, they had chosen to expand upon quality of items rather than quantity. In this one, they attempted to combine multiple different components in ways in which to improve the tank, combining both the elements of a lion, a viper, and also of a goat. This tank is extremely agile, extremely hardened, and extremely dangerous. Very flexible, and extremely hard to destroy, very tenacious. It finds itself often in a recurring... The tank often finds itself to be reappearing, and almost as though it possesses more than one life within itself, seeming to resurrect spontaneously, as though completely unharmed, with a new element as its primary focus. Subject number 12. Type 62 Light Tank, codename Dragon. This could best be described as a spiritual leech of sorts. It has been known to loiter in an area for a short period of time and then suddenly disappear and be observed to reappear at great distances at random. This has been primarily spotted in the Hebei, Shaanxi, and Hainan provinces of China. This is potentially an apparition created during the initial institution of the 5-year plan starting in 1953, with the tank being brought into service into the early 1960s. This may be some creation of great spiritual distress, potentially. Subject 13, M41 Walker Bulldog to German order specifications, codename Hollandhund. This tank is a derelict range wreck that remains inactive for the majority of the year, finding itself only coming to life within the last week of the month of October. It can be found in a test firing range on the west fold of the West German countryside that also unfortunately intersects with ley lines. In the last week of the month of October, this machine starts to gain sentience and activity and roam around. At the sign of any movement of anything, it becomes exceedingly hostile and attempts to attack and destroy it with great rapid speed. In the event that you should attempt containment or capture of this thing, Note that as it takes more damage, it becomes more and more hostile until it is finally destroyed. It cannot be captured alive. If left to its inert state, it was still dangerous, but nowhere near as badly. This is best to be avoided and left until the end of the month. At the stroke of midnight on October 31st, the tank will once again take up its previous position and become inert.